There for a moment, Tony Jones, former associate head basketball coach at the University of Tennessee, looked like he was in the witness protection program because it was really dark. There's the light coming back. First of all, thank you, Tony, for inviting me to Sevier Heights Baptist Church. I know that we weren't able to connect, but great message, and had a fantastic time. And yeah, it's good to get in line with the Lord. That's for sure.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's a very, very substantive church. Got baptized there about 3 months ago. The people are great, and just got to make you a regular attendee.
All right. Will West has me going to his church on this Sunday, but I will certainly be back at Sevier Heights. So let's dig into this, Tony. Tennessee makes a deep run in the SEC tournament, and they obviously played as hard as they could to get to the championship game. Tony, is that good for Tennessee? Iron sharpens iron, or are you concerned that they could be fatigued?
No, I mean they tried to win the tournament. I mean, I know a lot of those players. I know they were really focused, especially after beating a very good Auburn team, obviously the overall #1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and then to play Florida. They wanted to win the SEC tournament championship. It didn't happen. Just too many second chance points. I mean, Florida just dominated them on the glass. I believe it was a plus 14, and that's problematic. That couldn't happen. And then we got into foul trouble. And, you know, I mentioned on another show I did earlier, on Sunday after the game. I just think Brian Jarrett, Doug Shiles, and Joe Lindsey didn't control the game. You know, I know those guys. They've ref games that I've coached in, and I just think Brian Jarrett called a couple ticky-tack fouls, and that set the precedent. So if you're going to call it on that end, then me as an opposing coach, you got to call it on the other end. And then, as we see, it was just a parade to the free throw line. Both teams in the double bonus with 10 minutes to go. That's just not good basketball. And it wasn't a recipe for Tennessee to win because they didn't have the type of depth Florida has.
Yep. Agreed.
This is the story. Tony name dropping the refs, saying you guys screwed this up. Tony, I want to ask you about Tennessee's style of play to a certain degree. It seems like they're in a region. It seems like they put all the teams that play Tennessee style in the same region, pretty much. They kind of grind it out, embrace contact. How conducive is that for this Tennessee team that really only goes 7 deep to really try to reach the Final Four?
I think they got to get some transition baskets and not put a lot of pressure on their half-court offense. They're putting a little bit too much pressure on their half-court offense. They run in, that floppy action where, just perimeter guys just coming off pin downs and people are starting to top cover Chaz. They top covering Gainey, when he's on the wing. And if they're not making shots and stretching the defense, that's not a good recipe on the offensive end because Milicic hasn't played well in I don't know how many games, and Felix is just not scoring. He's not that low post threat offensively that we need. So I think we got to score a little bit more in transition, get second chance points, and turn over some people and score off our defense.
Caleb said earlier he thought that this particular game on Thursday against Wofford would be an opportunity for Tennessee to drive to the basket more often. What do you make of this matchup and that assertion?
I watched Wofford play against Furman in the Big South championship game. Played a really good game. Got some good 3-point shooters. They defend. They're well coached, so it's not going to be a cakewalk. The recipe for Tennessee being successful offensively in the half court is scoring the ball in the paint, and scoring the ball in the paint is just not throwing it into to Felix or Igor or Cade. It's ZZ and Gainey going downhill, getting into the paint, scoring on spoon feeds and drop-offs, and them getting offensive rebounds. Those are points in the paint that when they win, when Tennessee wins that battle, they usually win games. So I think that's going to have to be a mindset. And I think their coaching staff, it's a good coaching staff, I think their coaching staff knows that, and they'll be stressing that, especially during these first couple games, because it's all about getting out of this first weekend. If they get out of this first weekend, then all bets is off.
Tony, you brought it up a little while ago, and I want to talk about him. Igor Milicic is not playing well recently. He's not shooting the 3-ball well, which kind of, when you recruit a stretch 4 player, that's kind of the one thing you expect them to do. But most notably, is he scared of contact under the basket? It just looks like it, doesn't it?
He's a big guy. I think he's out there doing the best he can. I think, unfortunately for him and for the Vols, is he's been getting into foul trouble lately. And, Rick is an old school guy. If you get 2 in the first half, you're sitting the rest of the half. And if you get 2 with 14 minutes to go in the half, he's got to sit. He's going to sit. And, it puts a lot of pressure on him coming back in the second half to kind of get in the flow. I think Igor is a flow type player. He is a stretch forward, hasn't shot the 3-ball well, but he's capable of knocking down 2 or 3 in a row. And he's also a guy that can score around the basket. And then he does a great job on the defensive glass. I mean, when him and Felix and Meshack are out there all together, they're checking their guys out, and we getting defensive rebounds, people not getting second shots, and then we get into that aforementioned category that I say we got to be really well at, and that's transition offense.
Tony, let me ask you about something that's cropped up on the message board, and that is going into the tournament last year. We all know what happened. They just came up against an insurmountable force in Zach Edey. But do you have more faith in last year's team, which was obviously led by Connect, or this year's team, which seems to be a little bit more of a group effort? Which did you have more faith in heading into the tournament?
That's a very good question, because you got Connect, and then you had Adu and Awaka. You had those guys manning the inside instead of Felix and Milicic. I like this year's team because I think they play well together. I think this team really, really, really plays well together. And then I'm telling you, Jordan Gainey is the 6th starter. I've been saying it all year. He's been playing extremely well, and he's been consistent. And if we can get continue consistent play from Jordan and ZZ, obviously, and then Chaz, playing consistent throughout the game, I think it bodes well of us possibly getting to the Final Four. It's going to be tough. I mean, each and every game is going to be a dogfight. That's what the NCAA tournament is about. You throw in the 3-point shot that other teams are making. One thing that's key, especially in the first weekend, is we're playing in Lexington, Kentucky, and our fans can get there. So you're not playing out west where you're playing against an underdog, and then the crowd that's there for other teams are always going to cheer for the underdog, and you got everybody cheering against Tennessee. Here in Lexington, this first 2 rounds is pretty good for the Volunteers, as far as the volunteer faithful getting to Lexington and cheering the Vols on.
I'm looking at the Midwest region, and it almost looks like they just want to create a defense region. And I wonder, do you think that these teams led by Houston and Tennessee are mostly defensive minded? Does that help Tennessee, or does that make it more challenging for Tennessee, who's also defensive minded?
I mean, it's 6 in one buggy, half a dozen in the other. I mean, I know one thing: the officiating is going to be tight. So they got to be able to adjust to the officials. You're gonna have guys from different regions of the country in there. It's gonna be certain guys that Rick Barnes don't even know, hasn't seen, and you got to be able to adjust. Um, I think, if we fortunate enough to get back at Walford, I think that UCLA game, if they beat Utah State, is going to be a really, really challenging because, I got a lot of respect for Mick Cronin, a good friend of mine, that we call him Mouse, and he's going to have his team ready to play. And he's a Cincinnati guy. He's born and raised in Cincinnati. That's about 100 miles or so from Lexington. He'll have his people there, and another, like you said, another good defensive team, as Utah State is, and obviously we know what Houston brings to the table, a lunch pail.
That's right.
So Tony, I wanted, it's funny you talk about officiating being it's going to be tight, and that's what we talked about. Ziegler driving to the basket would be helpful in this situation because he could get to the free throw line and draw contact. I thought about this, and I want to know your thoughts on this real quick. I've thought in the past, like something like the dribble drive offense should work in the NCAA tournament, but then I look at John Calipari and he's only got one national title with the dribble drive offense. So my theory, but then I realized his free throw shooting has always been terrible. So a guy like Ziegler driving to the basket, running what you might call the dribble drive, that can work, right? As long as you're hitting your free throws.
Hey, I'm a big proponent of the dribble drive. I was at Oakland University past 6 years before I came back to Knoxville with Greg Campy, and they knocked off Kentucky last year, and at Johnson University, where I coach right now, we call it open. It's the same type of offense, and I don't know if you guys know, but we at Johnson University made the NAIA National Tournament. We got an at-large bid, first time in school history. So I want to give a shout out to our players and our coaching staff for that. But I love the dribble drive. You got guys that can get from point A to point B via the dribble on the perimeter in Jordan, in Meshack, in Chaz, and obviously ZZ. So I think that would be an offense that could be successful. ZZ is gonna have the ball in his hands, and he's gonna he's the straw that stirs the drink, and he's so intelligent. He's gonna get downhill. He's gonna get through those cracks and crevices whenever he can to create opportunities for himself and for his teammates.
Just for the record, I'm not going to share what Tony Jones thinks about John Calipari, but I know because before Tony and I met, we were at the same establishment, and Tony was outside talking about one said coach on the cell phone. And I walked by him and I was like, that's Tennessee's new assistant, Tony Jones. And I'm not going to share what you said in the interest of the forum. That happened right outside of Roosters. That happened.
Hey, no love lost between us and Cal, me and Bruce and our staffs. We went at it, and we're recruiting. That was first and foremost, and then on the court, and then to that 1 versus 2 game still stays in my mind. When we beat Memphis down there in that 1 versus 2 game, and they players tried to intimidate us coming out of the locker room saying, hey, before the game, this is not going to be a game. We're not playing the game today. Let's fight. Let's start a fight right now. And I think Cal had a lot to do with that.
Well, Tony, but wait a minute. You're a Pistons fan. That was y'all's whole style in the 80s. I mean, I saw a thing the other day. It was like Michael Jordan was the star, Magic Johnson was Showtime, Larry Bird was Larry Bird, and here come the Pistons saying, yeah, they all may be great, but I bet they won't fight us.
Hey, Caleb, it just depends on the narrative, baby. And
my Celtics win at least one other championship, if not 2, if Detroit doesn't rise up like they did. But I got a lot of respect for them in the way they won. They might not have been, well, I say not as skilled, but when you talk about Dumars and Isaiah and Vinny Johnson coming off the bench.
Hey, Hook, that was basketball at its finest, at its pinnacle with Bird and Isaiah and Jordan and Drexler and the like. I mean, that was basketball. I could do without LeBron James and his theatrics right now. I love the 90s brand of basketball.
Yeah.
You know, sorry.
Go ahead.
Tony, I'm actually from Memphis. I'm a hardcore Grizzly fan. I felt like the grit and grind era with Zach and Mark. It felt like we were modeling our style after the Pistons of the '80s when we were doing that.
Hey, you don't forget Tony Allen. I mean,
I love. We're gonna retire his jersey.
That was a straight gangster right there. He get into you. So I agree. They had a really tough basketball team. A team that was right there challenging for an NBA championship.
Is that the guy, Caleb, that hooked up with LeBron's mom? Am I remembering?
No, that would be Delonte West.
That would be the lefty Delonte West from St. Joe's.
But if Tony Allen thought that could help him stop LeBron, he would try to do it. He was that committed to defense.
Delonte needs to step up and go ahead and be LeBron's stepdad, because I mean that to me is the direction to go. All right, Tony. So how deep do you have the Vols going?
I got them. If we get past UCLA, and I'm saying if we get past UCLA, got them going to the Elite Eight, matching up against Houston, which would be that would be a very, 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 very exciting basketball game, and I hope it happens. And if the Volunteers could beat Houston, anything could happen in San Antonio. Well, I'll be right there, Hook. Right there.
Nice. One of the things that I love about Vinny Johnson, who was the backup guard for the Pistons back in the day, is he was a true pioneer of steroids in basketball. That guy was huge, Tony.
They called him the microwave because he would heat up really fast.
Yeah.
And then he had that slingshot jump shot. And I'll never forget that shot that he hit that sealed our second championship when we beat Portland in Portland that year. It was momentous.
This too, Tony, seems like ancient history, and the younger viewers aren't going to believe this, but there was actually they superimposed a picture of Joe Dumars with his hand. You remember on the front of Sports Illustrated with his hand like against Michael Jordan, and the headline is basically, this guy can stop Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And that was, boy, if that didn't, man, that had to make MJ mad.
Hey, MJ takes receipts, and he obviously took some because he ousted us that following year and then subsequent years, and then obviously we know what he did, winning 6 championships.
Great stuff, Tony. We appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me out to Severe Heights Church, and hopefully we'll be able to help support people about that. Thank you, Tony.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.